Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
And let's get to it. This is Ballsy Uncut to wrap up another week of sports talk, at least here on this online show. And however you're consuming it, either live right now, visually, or in audio form, or later in podcast form, if how I'm talking to you now is after the fact. Thanks for checking us out. Tell all your friends. Build this thing one viewer, one listener, one person at a time. Playing the infinite game here. Not going away. Going to keep talking CFL, keep talking sports, locally, professionally, you name it, right here on Ballsy Uncut. I want to thank some of my great sponsors that are helping me do that. District Brewing and their Super Squeeze Seltzer, Mango Lime, and Passion Fruit Lime. Here's the deal. One existing follower or one new follower, somebody by the end of the week, that means after our post-game show tomorrow, is going to win a pick 6 of either mango, lime, their Super Squeeze fruited seltzer, or passion fruit lime or mango lime. So you'll get one of that in a pick 6 form, in a 6-pack form, you get it, and 2 tickets to a CFL game. All right, 2 tickets to a CFL game and something from District Brewing. Now, I will say District Brewing, the Super Squeeze seltzers, just in Saskatchewan liquor stores, as far as I know. I'll have to double check that. So if you're watching or consuming this somewhere on the World Wide Web and in the internet world and all the social media platforms, which cover everybody, anywhere, keep that in mind. But the CFL tickets, can hook you up in whatever stadium you want to go to a game in. I can hook you up for sure. I will hook you up. Some lucky follower. All right. Also want to thank Ward Tire Craft, 101 Dudney Avenue, Michael Barth and the gang for your tire and brake needs. Go check them out. Great customer service. And when I say great customer service, ask them about their payment plans. 101 Dudney Avenue. It's Ward Tire Craft and Michael Barth and the gang. Yes, a reminder, tomorrow we've got the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show following the Riders and the BC Lions first place showdown. We'll get to that in a second. It's going to be a great game. It's a great week of action in the CFL. Early on, some nice matchups, and you always get some pretty competitive matchups in a 9-team league. So drop my pen. Already a fumble on the show. Get to that in a second. But as we talk about that game, after the game, myself and former CFL scout and CFL coach Craig Smith will take your calls after your calls, your chats, and all that good stuff. Want to give a shout out to a couple people listening and or watching. Lisa Marie Harris, old high school friend of mine, not old, but longtime friend of mine. She's battling cancer, and she is loving the show. So keep battling, sister. I know you'll beat it. Great customer service. That is something you don't see a lot of in today's day and age. And maybe that's why a lot of people are going online shopping. They don't want to deal with going into businesses where when you walk in, it's like you're offending them in a lot of cases. Not at Iannone Shoes on 13th Avenue. Tim, of course, a former Pat player, but his family, his daughter helped me pick out a new pair of shoes, and they literally tie the shoes for you. They walk you to the door, open the door, close the door, come back again. So kudos to Iannone Shoes. And I want to give a shout out to Andrew and Danielle Kuffner, who are big fans of the show. So thank you very much. Tell all your friends. James Hamilton, too, who's a regular contributor and follower of the show. So tell your friends, get them on board. Let's grow this thing. CFL, like, this is a sports show, so it's going to talk about a bunch of different sports. But let's be honest. The CFL, the 3-down game at all levels, doesn't get enough love. And that's what I've been hell-bent on doing. Went to the Canada Cup games, even though I complained about the price tag. I went to the Canada Cup games. I watched Quebec beat Ontario in what was a controversial ending. And then I watched Saskatchewan not play their best game. They lost to Ontario. So it's going to be Ontario and Quebec in the gold medal game on Saturday at Mosaic. And before that, it's the bronze medal game those are the games involving medals, I guess. Also, I think Manitoba plays New Brunswick in a relegation game, but the bronze medal game has Saskatchewan up against Alberta. The refereeing left a lot to be desired. I know people are bound to make mistakes, but there were so many penalties, especially in that first game between Alberta and Quebec. There was more penalty yardage than actual gained yardage by both teams. It's crazy. Like, it's okay to call penalties, but you got to let these young kids play. Maybe say, hey, you do that again, you get a penalty. Like, yes, unnecessary roughness, pass interference, but they literally were calling holding on every play or some sort of ridiculous penalty. So, yeah, they got to clean that up in terms of the tournament. But real quality athletes there at the high school level. All right, let's get to the games. Yesterday, the Toronto Argonauts beat the Montreal Alouettes. Now, when I had Eddie Steele on, I had picked Montreal to win, but I changed it at the last minute. This was before I knew Cody Fajardo would get hurt with a hamstring injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but the Toronto Argonauts come up with a big, solid victory in Montreal, ending the Alouettes' undefeated start to the season. So the only unbeaten team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Janarian Grant, another kickoff return for a touchdown, over a 100-yard return. He had like over 240 yards returning on 7 returns via punt and kickoff returns. The Bombers may have made a mistake letting go Janarian Grant, who now wears number 3 with the Toronto Argonauts. And the best friend of a young quarterback trying to figure things out, good defense, which they had in that game, and good special teams, which they had in that game. And that's kind of going to be a theme for the Rough Riders in their game against the BC Lions, you'd have to think. Speaking of the Bombers, oh, by the way, back to that for a second. McLeod Bethel Thompson was fine for talking about the player safety and how the league doesn't care. And he was absolutely spot on, in my opinion. He got fined. And Jason Moss was complaining before the game that, it's ridiculous to play on a Saturday and a Thursday. And then his quarterback comes up lame, rolling out of the pocket to make a pass. Cody Fajardo, who is playing the best football of his life. There's quite a drop-off between Fajardo and Caleb Evans. So, yeah. I don't know how long Cody Fajardo's out. That could be a big factor in the CFL's East now. But football was not meant to play on 4 days. It just wasn't. I would like to think there's a way around it in the CFL. It was a difference between the NFL with 32 teams and the CFL with 9 teams. I don't make schedules, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But you want the best product on the field, not only for that week, but, I'm reading a book about infinite versus finite, like the here and now versus the long-term game. And the long-term game would be you want the best product from the start of the season to the end of the season. And you don't get that when you're having a team play on 2 or 3 days rest. It's ridiculous. Now, thankfully, Montreal's on a bye week, but there's got to be a way where we can stretch the games out. Now, I know you'll say, and a lot of people say, some media types too, wow, it's good. We get it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hey, I love watching football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday too. Don't make no mistake about it. But in a 9-team league, when you can't get that 10th team, and I don't think it's imminent we're getting a 10th team, unfortunately, you got to go 2 on Friday. Go 2 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, or whatever. Just don't do Thursday. Don't do Thursday night, just for the health of the players. But like I said, this is why you don't bitch at players for getting the most money they can in any league. Because at the end of the day, they're all chips. They're all pieces of meat. They all are moved around. Eventually, they don't give a shit about you. If you don't believe me, all you got to do is go watch. Now, this is on another level, but go watch HBO's Hard Knocks. HBO Hard Knocks. They've got an off-season edition now with the New York Giants. Two weeks in, and I'll tell you what, you can see how, Saquon Barkley, he was our offense, but he wants too much money. He's gone. I'm all for players getting as much as they can, because at the end of the day, these leagues don't care about the players. There'll be another guy coming. But there's not going to be another quarterback. That's the thing. Cody Fajardo's hurt. Zach Collaros is back, but he's already missed the game. Trevor Harris is out. Those new and up and coming quarterbacks, we need to see that. And hopefully we start seeing, those guys develop. And let's get into that here. So the Calgary Stampeders attempting to complete a series sweep as they travel to Winnipeg to play the Bombers tonight. It's a 7:30 kick Winnipeg time, 6:30 where I am in Regina. So adjust your viewing habits accordingly. But this is the second and final meeting of the regular season. Calgary beat Winnipeg in overtime 22-19 when Chris Strevler had to come off the bench because there was an injury sustained to Zach Collaros. He got smoked by that big mountain of a man, Coatney, in the interior of that Calgary defense. And you'll watch him tonight try to wreak havoc on the interior of that Winnipeg offensive line. But Zach Collaros is back. I've picked Calgary to win this one, although I wouldn't be surprised if Collaros has his team firing on all cylinders. And I believe we'll see Lucky Whitehead tonight, back where his CFL career began with the Blue Bombers, let go by the BC Lions. He will, I think, be in the lineup tonight when the Bombers entertain the Stampeders. It's the 216th regular season meeting all time between Calgary and Winnipeg. The Stamps hold a 114-101 edge, but have a 44-64 record in games played in Winnipeg. So that's something of note. The BC Lions, Saskatchewan Roughriders game. That is the one that a lot of people have earmarked as the game of the week. Now, we had the 1 and 2 teams in the CFL's Eastern Division play yesterday, as I said, but this one is great. They've got an 889 combined record. The last and only time these clubs finished up at 1 and 2 in the West was 17 years ago in 2007. Their combined winning percentage of 889 is the highest of any matchup in their long rivalry, minimum 6 games. Now, BC has won 4 in a row, look to make it 5 in a row. Last time they did that was July to August 2022. They can match that this week, obviously. Riders, 4 wins in a row. Saskatchewan looking to make it 5. Last time they posted 5 victories in a row within a season was a 6-game run in 2019 with that terrible, awful head coach, Craig Dickinson, as Rider fans are prisoners of the moment when it comes to Dickey. I'm sorry, I'm going to stick up for my guy. Although you got to like what Corey Mace has done. He has wins in his first 4 CFL games as a head coach. He looks to go 5-0. Last Riders head coach to win first 4 of the season in his tenure was Ken Miller back in 2008. The BC Lions, just going to look at their offense here. Their offense, 463 yards of net offense over the last 3 games, producing 19 scoring drives in the process. And a big key for the efficiency has been second down conversion rate of 67% over those 3 games, 46 of 69. And I believe they haven't given up a sack to BC Lions since the very first week when they were obliterated by the Argos, giving up 6 quarterback sacks, and Vernon Adams took a beating. Now, here's another odd stat. The Riders offense, they're 4-0, but the Riders offense has been outgained in every game so far. But they do make up for it on defense with a turnover ratio of +10 to lead the league. Riders have had just 1 turnover in their last 3 games. So that's going to be a big thing too. BC's disciplined, don't take a lot of penalties, play pretty good on home turf. Crowd of about 30,000 or so will be at that game, so the atmosphere is going to be awesome. Justin McInnes, the former Rider, led all CFL receivers last week with career highs of 144 yards on 10 catches. In 5 games, he is number 2 in targets with 47 and just 208 yards away from his career high for a season. And then Ben Hladek has 34 defensive tackles to lead the CFL coming into this week and is on pace for 100 plus yet again. I am right now sitting fairly nice with my predictions, not only immediately, but over the long run. So I am 15-6 now for the season on Ballsy's best bets. Yesterday, switching to Toronto, 1-0 for the week. I've got Calgary, BC, and Edmonton for the rest of this week. Of course, Edmonton playing Ottawa. Drew Brown should be at quarterback for the Ottawa Redblacks in that one. I picked Vernon Adams Jr. to be my MOP, win the Grey Cup with the Lions this year, and then get traded when Nathan Rourke comes back to the CFL. Now, I hope Nathan stays, and that means Vernon would stay, but that's my prediction. Right now, VA is rolling, man. This guy is on pace for some big time yardage. I got it all printed out here. He is on pace for 6,307 passing yards, which would make it the second all time for a single season behind Doug Flutie's CFL and Lions record of 6,619 set in 1991. Think about that record from Doug Flutie coming into the league way back in the day. That's when you can clutch and grab receivers. Now you can't even look the wrong way at a receiver, and they let them go offside, way offside, more so than back in 1991. And he had 6,619 yards to Doug Flutie. More on Flutie a little later on in the show as it relates to Flutie and the CFL and his thoughts on the CFL. Vernon Adams is now 19-8 all-time and starts with the Lions, and overall has 21 games of 300 or more passing yards. But he's going against a very good Saskatchewan Roughriders defense, which, by the way, if I'm looking at the depth chart here, interesting. In for the Riders, Sean Payne Jr., back from his the passing of his sister and the funeral. Thomas Bertrand-Hudon, Adam Auclair. They've got Jacoby McLean at linebacker. Miles Brown is back in, and Sanders, who played at South Dakota State, he will be back in as a backup defensive tackle. Out for the Riders, Keyshawn Johnson. Malik Carney's out with, I think, a knee injury. Frankie Hickson's out because they got to put Miles Brown back on the roster. Nick Daly's out. Christian Albright out. And Charbel DeBeer with those ACL injuries. So we'll see how that Riders D-line can get after Vernon Adams Jr. What else can we tell you about this game? There is so much to get to as it relates to the Riders and the BC Lions. Vernon Adams Jr., my pick for the MOP. Tyson Philpott was my breakout player of the year. He had another touchdown last night in a losing cause, his 5th of the year. He's well on his way to that. Jameer Thurman was my pick for outstanding defensive player in the CFL. I don't know if he's going to get that, but he's off to a great start. He's already accounted for 4 of those 10 turnovers the Riders defense has created. And Ben Hladek, I picked as my most outstanding Canadian when a lot of people still had Brady Oliveira, the Winnipeg running back, who hasn't seen the ball as much as he's wanted to. We'll see if he gets it tonight. And he might with the injuries to the receiving core. But anyway, most people picked Oliveira to reign supreme again as the outstanding Canadian. And we're a long way from anywhere. But right now, Ben Hladek making me look smart once again as he's off to a great start, like I said, leading the league in tackles coming into this week with 34. You want to know about tackles and quarterback sacks? How about Grover Covington? 157 sacks. He's the all-time sacks leader in the CFL. Well, Grover Covington's offspring is in the CFL. He spent 9 years in the NFL, originally drafted by Houston, bounced around the NFL, but primarily when he did make a elongated stop, it was with my San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. If you're watching, you can see the lightning bolt and helmet behind me. By the way, did you see the bolt? Their practice facility they open up. Wow. Crazy, man. Anyway, Christian Covington, Grover's son, is going to be lined up in the interior of that defensive line with the BC Lions. He is going to join us next. He's driving home from practice, and he said he's going to pull over to the side of the road, and we're going to catch up with Grover's kid, Christian Covington. That is coming up next right here on Ballsy Uncut. All right, we got some CFL football royalty joining me here ahead of the Riders and the BC Lions, Christian Covington. So a guy who grew up who was born in Vancouver, had some success in Vancouver, went south, now is back. Is it true? Can you come home again?
Oh, absolutely. It feels good to be home. It really does.
Yeah. Are you settled in now? Do you feel like you got your feet under you and you're getting this Canadian game down?
Oh, absolutely. I know it took a little bit of it was an adjustment period, most definitely. The game, obviously football is football no matter where you play it. But at the same time, you do have to respect the Canadian game and you have to respect the differences that are going to play and become a factor once you play it. So the fact that I have, I want to say 5 games now, 5 regular season games under my belt right now, it feels like I'm about to really start hitting my stride. So it feels, the Canadian game is feeling really good right now.
So we'll get into that in a second. But Christian, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Your dad's the all-time sacks leader and had a cool name, Grover. Uh, does that bring any more pressure to you to have that last name, Covington?
No, no pressure. No, I know, man, I know what my dad did, in this league. I know what he means to this league. I know what he means to to the people and to the city and to the fans of Hamilton. And, just the type of player that he was, the type of man that he was. I know you bring up that name, it brings a lot of smiles to people's faces. It brings a lot of joy, but, he himself, spoke to me before I even made the decision to even come back home and come to play, for BC. He already told me that no matter what, like my journey is my own. He is thrilled and proud of me for the career that I've had so far. And, at the end of the day, he's like, hey, it's, he knows 157 sacks is a long way to go, and that's something in itself. It's a monster in its own right. But he just said, "Hey man, do your thing. You're a D tackle. I was a defensive end. Like there's no real pressure."
So your dad, I don't know if he saves any of his old game tapes, but the beauty of YouTube is you can go back and you can look at anything. I can go look at Christian Covington on the Chargers. I can look at Grover with Hamilton. Have you watched any of your dad's stuff?
I did, yes. No, growing up, unfortunately, I never got to, he retired before I was born, so I never actually got to see him live. So, before the beautiful thing that we call YouTube was a thing, we were old school with it with the VHS tapes. So that's where I used to be able to, that's where I was able to, dissect his game film and actually watch him play. And, I know the first ever game I ever watched of him was, his 1986 Grey Cup performance. Brother killed it. 5 sacks in a Grey Cup game. I mean, come on now. So ever since then, though, obviously with the introduction of YouTube, so many great fans and creators who have just been able to upload full on CFL games, CFL classics. So, once I was able to, once I was back home, I've been hitting YouTube like nonstop, really, just to be able to watch him.
So you were just back there, and like the lines were just just in Hamilton. What was that like to go back there to Dad's old
Oh
stop?
man, that was my first time. That was my first time in Hamilton in a long time. I want to say that was my first time being back there since my dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a moment for me. I know my father, my mom, and my mother. They've been back there multiple times throughout the years, but that was my first time in a long time. So it was emotional to see, my dad's name, obviously, at Tim Hortons Field, formerly Ivor Wynn. It was just amazing to actually get to see his name officially up there. And just to be, be in Hammertown, to be in the city, that he was able to call home for 11 years. Like that was amazing to be a part of. It really was.
So what's the best piece of football advice that your dad has given you?
Oof. If you're good, they will find you.
Interesting.
If you're good, they will find you. That was really, that was my motivation that he really instilled in me at such a young age, just because of, the situation of me being, Canadian born, growing up in Canada, playing this, this Canadian game. It was around that time where there was a lot of hype coming up, earlier on, with, him coaching at my high school, him being involved heavily with Vancouver College out here.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was, he coached a lot of guys who ended up going Division I out of BC. He had D linemen who went to the Pac-12 and to the Big Ten. And to be a younger kid seeing that, I was just like, I was thinking to myself, oh, I want this. I need this, but there was also that side thought in my head where I'm just like, you know what, maybe do I need to potentially see about going to a high school in the U.S.? Do I really want to stick it out in Canada if I want to get recruited? His biggest advice to me was, if you're good, they'll find you.
That's a good piece of advice.
That's what they did. That's what they did to that's what they did to the players that he was able to coach up here. And as you can tell, that's really the name of the game right now with regard to, being able to be recruited across Canada, across the United States, to play in the CFL, to play in the NFL. If you have the talent, they will come and find you.
Okay, so your dad, I said he had a cool first name, Grover. What is your nickname? Do you have a nickname, Christian?
My nickname, obviously, people just call me Cove. I mean, it's kind of weird though, because everybody calls me Cove. Everybody calls my dad Cove. So anytime we're in the same room together around football people and we hear the word Cove, we both turn around. So his was, I mean, you can't beat that, but I mean, growing up in high school, some people in college, people used to call me C4 just because of my full name.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, my full name is Christian Coral Cleveland Covington. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my parents, yeah, they love what is that? They love the alliteration. So, uh, yeah, they really did love that. So like, that's my name. That's my nickname.
Did your dad get ticked off? Because my nickname's Ballsy, and my kid, when he's playing football, he's around all his buddies. They call him Ballsy, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's my nickname.
No,
That's
he
not your
loves
nickname.
it. No, he loves it because it was football that brought
Yeah.
around because it's the football community that calls him that and that calls me that.
Mhm.
He loves it. I mean, yeah, again, it's just another proud dad moment.
So Christian, I feel that way too. Christian, so let me ask you this: what other talent? Take football aside. Give me your life. Take me behind the scenes. What kind of talent does Christian Covington have in other areas of his life? Give me one other thing you're talented at besides smoking people and tackling them.
Oh man, let's see. I want to say I'm musically inclined. You know,
Okay.
grew up in choir, grew up singing, but then I grew up playing. I grew up in, playing for my school's, band. So I play the clarinet. I can play the clarinet. I can play the saxophone, but I primarily play the clarinet, and I still do to this day. It's my clarinet. I did not bring it with me to Canada. It's back in Texas right now.
Mhm.
But I love that. I love anything to do with music. I just love that. But as far as like who the real Christian is though, I'm
Yeah.
a nerd, man. I'm a nerd. At the end of the day, like you will catch me. I'm a cinephile. I love movies. I love everything to do with the cinema itself. Every genre. I don't care if I have to watch subtitles. I don't care if it's an international film. You will see me at the movie theater once, maybe twice, sometimes in the peak season, 3 times a week.
That's awesome.
It's an unhealthy obsession, but I love it. It's
That's
just, and now that Marvel's about to be coming back around. Ooh, yeah, you'll be seeing me there.
So you're locked in a room. You can only watch one movie on a loop for a whole day. What are you watching?
Ooh, that's a good one, honestly. You know what? All right, I'll tell you, it might be recency bias. It might be recency bias. But
Okay.
Dune Part 2 does something to every single viewer that I've talked to that's seen it. That's just, the movie's been out for a long time. I still don't want to spoil it, but there's one scene near the end of the film that literally gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. And I've seen this loop on Twitter. I've seen it on Instagram. I've seen this one particular scene like over and over again. And every time I watch this, it gives me goosebumps every time. So,
Okay.
Dune 2, I could watch that all day.
I'm gonna have to watch those. I haven't seen one or two, so now
Oh my goodness, you have to watch. Oh, part one, amazing. Part 2 is amazing, but it's one of the Dune franchise is definitely in the, it's in uncharted territory with regard to the movie world of movies that have sequels that are better than the
Okay.
first movies.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Staying with the movies for a quick second, because you took me in a different path. I like it. Favorite football movie of all time.
Oh, Remember the Titans.
Yeah, you like that one, eh?
Remember the Titans. But if we're going nostalgic with regard to my personal childhood, Little Giants.
Little Giants.
Little Giants.
Yes,
That
awesome.
was, yeah. Oh my goodness. That movie was just,
Yeah,
yeah,
off the chain.
that's a movie that's near and dear to my heart.
Awesome. So, besides Dad Grover Covington, who did you grow up idolizing as a football player?
It was my dad and it was my dad, it was Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor.
Hmm.
Those three defensive linemen.
That's awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
talk to me. As you can see over my shoulder, I'm a San Diego San Diego of Los Angeles Chargers, as I like to call them. Okay, I was gonna give up on the Chargers when they moved, and then when Phillip Rivers left, but then I saw this Herbert kid throw the football, and I'm like, I got to stick with this guy. So you were on that team. I actually took listeners down in a previous life to go watch Rams one game and then Chargers on Sunday night against Miami. You were playing. So what did you learn from guys like maybe Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, those kind of guys?
Man, those guys, they're just pros. I've been fortunate. I was, fortunate enough to be with that team for 3 years, and so many we have so many high character guys on that team, and so many just not only world class athletes, but we're just world class people in general on that defense. And to be a part of that, defensive room, to be a part of that unit, and just to have guys who not only love the game of football, who are talented at the game of football, but take it so seriously. They take it, everything that they do, every aspect of their routine, everything that's a part of their day-to-day just scheduling is built around football. It's built around everything that has to do with football, and to be able to make sure that they're in the best shape possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, in the best state to be ready come game day. And these are guys that I loved hanging out with them during the day, during meetings, on the field, at the practice field, on game days, and they were great guys to be able to hang out with off the field. Whenever we did our defensive dinners, whenever we were just hanging out during the holidays, anything like that. They taught me, it was just good to be around just true professionals who just took the craft very seriously.
Well, I can see you're a true professional too, and you're chip off the old block. Couple more questions for you, because I know it's a busy time and I appreciate taking time.
Of course.
So I was at a social function the other day, and the one thing the CFL fights with is it's a bush league. If they were any good, they'd be in the NFL. And this one guy says to me, I wouldn't go to a CFL game if you gave me free tickets and concessions all night. And then he tries to, because it's a garbage league and it's a bush league, and he tries to tell me that MLS soccer is way better. Now, I'm not getting you to comment on MLS soccer, okay?
Of course.
But I looked at the rankings of soccer leagues, and MLS soccer is regarded as the 16th best soccer league in the world. The Canadian Football League, I think most people would say, is it's the oldest professional football league, but is the second best football league in the world. You're a guy that just played in the NFL. It's a different game, but talk to me about the quality, because I always fight with people. I say, yes, you got the Bosas, the Max, the Keenan Allens, the Herberts of the world, but from about the 8th guy to the bottom of the roster, it's pretty equal. In your words, how do you see the difference in quality between the two leagues?
Really, at the end of the day, the game of professional football in itself is one of the most challenging sports that you can be a part of. No matter what country you're playing in, no matter the continent, no matter the rules, the game of professional American style, this helmets on and whatnot. No disrespect to soccer. We call this football over here.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it takes, you have to be special. You're truly one of one. You're truly blessed to be able to have the skill set, the talent, and the work ethic to be able to make it at this level. Now, if you go and talk to anybody who's been able to either play at both in both leagues, or who's tried out in both leagues, or had a career in the NFL and tried out the CFL, or wanted to just extend their career and they had to go to the CFL, they will tell you the talent level is the same. So obviously there's levels to it, but you cannot sleep on the Canadian League. There have been plenty of examples of former guys, former all pro, all-star NFL players, Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco for one. I know he's one of the biggest examples of, a guy that came into this league and was a huge voice and advocate for letting the rest of the football world know, there are some ballers up here. There are some players up here. Now, if you want to talk about, if they're so good, why aren't they down in the NFL? Why aren't they down south? Again, one thing I will say about football is timing has to be everything as well. Some guys I don't believe in luck, but for the most part, it's the luck of the draw for some people. Other people, you're just going to be, just so talented that the NFL will be knocking down your door to be able to have you come into the league. But for the most part, as you say, guys who are at the edge of, at the bottom of the rosters or the edge of the rosters, for the most part, it's a matter of, this person might be just a scheme fit. This person was at this tryout in this city where this scout was, just so happened to be there. There's a lot of different factors that come into play where, some guys who end up coming and having a career in the CFL, they're just like, well, he's so good. He's so talented. My goodness, he can play. Why he should be playing on Sundays. And it just, for the most part, that's the number just increased of the guys who have the talent. Just the opportunities just never presented itself for them to be able to have that door open for them to go south.
Okay, two more
The
questions.
talent is here.
Two more questions. One about the switch to the Canadian game. How have you managed the 1 yard off the ball? Is that advantageous to you, or was it better when you were closer, hand-to-hand combat right away at the snap?
It has its. There's pros and cons at the end of the day. I'm just thankful. No, I've had no offsides this yet. I have no offsides, no encroachment. I have not got a single penalty, so I'm happy about that. Now, it's advantageous for the defense in order to be able to gain that momentum, to be able to see the play and to see the scheme in front of you, to see the offensive lineman, see whatever is happening in front of you unfold. And that with having that yard off, it allows you to see a lot more. However, it does mess up your timing of your pass rush. It does mess up the timing of being able to have that much closer of a distance to, the ball carrier, to the quarterback. That's where it's like, if you were just like had that inch off, the game is that much quicker. You're able to make a move that much quicker. You're able to step up your move that much quicker. So there's pros and cons to everything. You're able to see a little bit more. You're able to allow things to develop, to be able to see, okay, I could do this, this, and this. However, that's some of the adjustment that I've had to make as a defensive lineman in particular is timing of my moves, timing of being able to start my pass rush.
You're a great athlete, obviously, no doubt about it, professional, like you said, a 1%er. Have you noticed, I've talked to a bunch of D linemen or O linemen, they said it's the speed of the game, it's the quickness in between plays, and there's a lot more running and a lot more endurance needed. Do you find that in here?
Oh, very true. The field is longer, field is wider. The play clock is only 20 seconds once that whistle blows. It is such a fast-paced game, and again, it's a passing league. Yes, we have great running. There are great running backs in this league, great running offenses in this league. However, let's be honest, like the CFL it's only 3 downs of football. It's a passing league. It's built for that extra wide receiver DB matchup. It's built for these quarterbacks to be able to sling that rock and throw that ball as deep as they can. So you have to be in shape. You have to be able to have that endurance to be able to go, even when your number's called, because it's not every series is going to feature a 2 and out. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it's funny because in the NFL, they're talking about all spread formation, RPOs. We've been doing this shit up here for years. It's like we've been doing this stuff for years. Hey, lastly, your opponents, it's a big first place battle, man. This is a game everybody's salivating over. Just your thoughts on facing the Rough Riders, maybe what you're seeing from their line, Shea Patterson, AJ Ouellette, the running back.
They're a formidable opponent. We've been doing a lot of, film study has been real this week. It's been, especially with the short week, we've had to do a lot of overtime, in the meeting room as a collective unit outside of our scheduled time with the team. We've had to, meet up extra, as a defense, and I'm sure offense has done the same as well. But their record is what it is for a reason. We know that this is going to be a battle. We don't take them lightly in any regard. But with that being said, I trust this team. It's been a great group to be a part of. This is a team that's hungry. And I felt like we were really getting, things in motion, especially with this past week against Hamilton. So I know we're excited.
Well, in another lifetime, I talk to this guy quite regularly, so I'm happy to have him back on Ballsy Uncut. This is Andy McNamara, my fantasy football expert. Andy Mac, how are you, bro?
Oh, Ballsy, good to be back on with you, buddy. Good to see you, interact with you and the listeners, viewers, all that. Very excited.
Yeah, it feels like Hogan and Savage joining forces. We're back together. Ooh, yeah,
right. Yeah. Gotta do the slow handshake. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I gotta get your plug out here. Where can people find you on a regular basis, man?
Yeah, I'm all over Twitter, X at AndyMC81, including, hey, my pin tweet, you get this fantasy football gear. Just click on it, get some sweet merch from the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. That's on YouTube. We talk fantasy football, Browns, all things NFL. That's every week on YouTube. And hey, if you like horse racing as well, follow at My Railbirds on all social. Lots of fun stuff there.
Awesome, man. Who's your favorite Brown of all time?
Ooh,
like boy. take Jim Brown out of it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite? Like, what turned you on to the Browns?
You know what? It's got to be Eric Metcalf. Has to be Eric Metcalf.
Yeah.
I got the card behind me. I remember I was doing, grade 6 or 7, whatever, pretending, you play as your favorite in the backyard catching. But I was Eric Metcalf. And a couple years ago, which was incredible experience when I was with UFF Sports, got to go to Vegas to do a big auction we were doing from a Las Vegas TV studio. Got to ride in a limo. He was my co-host with Eric Metcalf drinking bourbon. I was like, if you got to take me now, I'm good.
His dad Terry played in the CFL with the Toronto Argonauts. So yeah,
absolutely. And Terry was one of my dad's favorites growing up. So funny enough that goes and did a show with him at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Eric Metcalf's the man, hell of a guy and one heck of a player too.
How do you think the Browns are going to be this year?
Look, Vegas has them at 8.5 wins, which I know we say Vegas knows. I'm not buying that. I'm putting money on the over. I think this team has every single piece to win the division potentially, or at least get back to their 11-win team. Ballsy, think of it this way. If you won 11 games with 5 different quarterbacks last year, including a revamped, shock to the heart Joe Flacco, you should be able to do it with the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, the reigning Assistant Coach of the Year, Jim Schwartz, and a revamped everything else. The question is, can Deshaun Watson stay healthy and do it? That's the big unknown.
That is the big unknown. That's a tough division too, isn't it?
Oh
that is
gosh.
That's a murderer's row right there. So let me ask you, I know you're not a fan, obviously. What do you make of the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Hogan Savage connection at quarterback there for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, it didn't take much to get better because Kenny Pickett, and I'm all the squealer fans, Kenny Pickett's the guy. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So when I was calling baby hand Pickett and you're all mad and then you got run, it's like, he wasn't that good. Yeah, Kenny Pickett sucked. Your quarterback since Roethlisberger have sucked. And the last time we saw Big Ben, he was weeping on the sidelines when the Browns beat his ass. So that's that. But Russell Wilson, people saying he's glue factory. I don't know, man. Like, this is a guy, he still has talent. Justin Fields, I love the talent, but he's still struggling to read defenses. Is that his fault because of the terrible situation he was in Chicago? The thing is, with Pittsburgh, they can be very fluid with this. Each guy's on a 1-year deal. One or none work out. You can move on or keep. So it's an upgrade. The defense is always tough. I see Pittsburgh right now being last in the division. And that doesn't mean like 3 wins. Last in this division could be 8 and 9, 9 and 8. That's how tight this division is.
Yeah, you're right. And I tell you what, I don't know how good Russell is in how much he's got left when the Denver Broncos are paying him millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars not to play for them. Yeah.
Look, he has everything to prove. What's his motivation? That's the thing we never know. We all assume all these athletes are uber motivated. The guy's got the Hollywood wife. He's got all the cash. He's won the Super Bowl. He's been to 2. Maybe he doesn't care. I wouldn't blame him. It's like, okay, you got everything. Maybe he's not motivated. That gives an opportunity for Justin Fields. Maybe Justin Fields isn't good enough and the Steelers go out and get somebody else. That's the unknown too. But we know that just on raw talent, Russell Wilson, that old saying, any given Sunday, that guy can pop up and beat you. So the Steelers are going to be a tough out.
So 2 of my overrated teams this year are my team. You see the Chargers over my shoulder there. I think the Chargers are going to be overrated just in the sense that I think they're going to be good eventually under Jim Harbaugh. I just don't know that it's going to be where they're challenging Patrick Mahomes in the first year for the division. Like, people are talking like that. So I think overrated in that sense. And then the other overrated team to me, and you'll like this one, the old Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens. They've been knocking on the door. They've lost some guys. They've lost some coaches. I don't think Lamar Jackson's a championship quarterback. Yes, he wins games, just not when they count. Like, it's great to be Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. Yeah, you win 11, 12 games. You might win your division. That's great. But you don't win when they matter.
Yep, you don't win when it counts. It depends what people want to deem as success. If you look at stats and MVP, successful Lamar Jackson. If you look at playoff success, same amount of playoff wins as my old guy Baker Mayfield. Just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm with you. To this day, the main defensive strategy against Lamar Jackson is to make him throw the football. Ballsy, I don't care what you tell me. If that is the strategy to stop a quarterback, to make him throw the ball, then you're not as good as you think. And when it comes to the prime time, I'm totally with you. He stayed healthy last year. Ravens can win all the games. They have the bye. They choke. The receivers, everyone blamed me. This one always got me. Look, they don't have any receivers. Really? Well, look at the guys who maybe left. Hollywood Brown looked pretty good when he played for a cup of coffee with Kyler Murray. Is it the receiver? Is it the quarterback? I think it's the quarterback. And look, again, just like the Steelers, the Ravens, defensively, you got the stability. The defense, they are tough. Like, this is, I hate them, but geez, like they are tough, and they will make it go. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they win the division and flub out in the playoffs again.
Yeah, no, for sure. Andy McNamara here, our fantasy expert. He's a fantasy champ in his own league, so he knows what he's talking about. So the NFL, that's right, baby. So the NFL, with the Peyton Manning thing, they've come out with the Receivers Netflix series now. I haven't watched it yet. My son watched the first one. He said it's pretty good. They did the quarterbacks before. By the way, last time on the show you weren't on, but I couldn't remember the name. It was Mariota they were following. He wanted to be anywhere but the NFL. It seems like he wants to be back in Hawaii. But anyway, that's the name I forgot. That's the name I forgot. So let's talk receivers here. Give me your top 5 receivers in the NFL from a fantasy perspective. They can be in order. They can be in no particular order, but give me from your perspective, top 5 fantasy receivers, and then maybe one sleeper as teams or people are getting ready for their drafts. Yeah.
Here's the thing we have to separate. We have to separate, and a lot of people fall into this name recognition and what has been done in the past. And sometimes it's not the receiver's fault. So, for example, who do I think is the best talent with a good quarterback in the NFL? I think it's Justin Jefferson. Do I think Justin Jefferson is going to be the best fantasy wide receiver this year because of his quarterback situation? I don't. Don't. Not Justin Jefferson's fault. What are you going to do, right? In Minnesota, it doesn't work. So if I'm looking at the best, now I still put him in a top 5 just because he's so talented. He's going to will his way to be good. But I think we have to look at, you mentioned regular season stars, playoff flunkers. Well, in fantasy football, don't really care about the real life playoffs. I care about the regular season, and that's C.D. Lamb. The Cowboys didn't do squat this offseason. Ballsy, if it was the year 2020 and you tell me Ezekiel Elliott's your starting running back, I'm pretty happy. 2024, the guy's averaging under 3 yards a carry. That means they're going to have to throw the ball. They got no choice. And you didn't bring back Michael Gallup. C.D. Lamb's the number 1 fantasy wide receiver to me. Tyreek Hill is right there as well. You got Jalen Waddle mixed in. People bring in OBJ. Get out of here, OBJ. I've told you this on the show before. For your new viewers, OBJ, and look it up, Odell Beckham Jr. has not been fantasy or real life relevant since Barack Obama was president. That's a fact. That's a fact. Okay? That's real life. Yeah. That's real life. So get that stupid Odell stuff out of there. Then you got to work in Jamar Chase, absolute stud. You lose Tyler Boyd. If Joe Burrow stays healthy, they're going to be slinging it. Jamar Chase might end up being the top guy. So that's 3. Justin Jefferson, I said. Then I'm a bit torn between Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown. I'm going to say A.J. Brown with the Eagles. I'm a big believer in Justin Fields, so I think he gets a slight edge over Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they're right there. So those are the top 5.5.
Okay. And do you have a sleeper that nobody's talking about?
I do, and I'm going to show you my sleeper here. I just got this. I'm a card collector. I just got this beauty right here. That is a Cedric Tillman autographed on-card auto, one of 18 rookie card with the Browns jersey patch. Why did I get this card this year, Ballsy? Because I believe Cedric Tillman in his second year is going to be a riser. In your dynasty fantasy league, you better pick this guy up. I didn't. I'm in a new dynasty league this year. I picked him up. Why? Well, because you look at Amari Cooper, contract holdout, he'll be back, but this is probably his last year in Cleveland. The Browns went and got Jerry Jeudy. You've seen a lot of Jerry Jeudy as a Chargers fan. Potential hasn't lived up to it. So you have Elijah Moore out of the slot. Cedric Tillman is big. He's fast. He's a nasty willing blocker, and that dude can get every 50-50 ball up there. If he can get a connection, I think he will, with Deshaun Watson. They've been practicing together. Cedric Tillman has all the opportunity to be a star. In an offense, here's the other part. Are you going to get opportunity? Are you going to be running the ball? Well, no. You bring in new offensive coordinator for the Browns that are going to be throwing the ball. They're not going to be running it as much. Nick Chubb's going to be injured till October, November. So now you're going to get opportunity. This year, next year, Cedric Tillman, sleeper pick. That's someone you can get later in your fantasy drafts, and I'd want a whole lot of. I'm going to try to get him in every one of my leagues.
How about Ladd McConkey, the guy that comes to the Chargers?
I like Ladd McConkey. So with him for Dynasty, again, and actually in that same league, so I got Cedric Tillman and Ladd McConkey, to your point. There's going to be opportunity here, right? Because if we look at that Chargers offense there, it's like, okay, well, Hopefully, you finally have a competent head coach. I believe you do, in Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Well, what was holding this team back? Come on, we talked about it before.
The coach, yeah.
Just terrible, right? You got Justin Herbert. Come on. So I think Ladd McConkey is going to work his way in. I feel when we look at him, it's like, all right, he's still learning the position to a point, right? And so is he going to be the best wide receiver this year? Maybe not, but he's going to be an absolute stud when it comes to, I think, PPR, so points per reception, if you're just doing it where they're getting touches in the ball. I feel mainly inside, but you can pop him outside a little bit. And I think this guy with the hands, what I saw at the combine as well, and on that stud Georgia team, Ladd McConkey has all the pieces. So again, later pick, I wouldn't necessarily want him as a definite starter. Do I want him on my bench this year and see how it goes? Yes. And dynasty? Absolutely.
So just to wrap up the receiver talk, Keenan Allen leaves the Chargers to go to the Chicago Bears, where all of a sudden they have weapons and maybe an up-and-coming quarterback. Who knows? What kind of season do you think Keenan Allen will have as kind of the veteran graybeard in that offense with a young quarterback? He was a 100-reception guy with the Chargers.
Yeah, and so here's what I would do from a fantasy side with Keenan Allen. Because I feel he's getting into the Julio Jones phase of his career where every week there's a D beside it. Is it an ankle? And he'll play, but you always have to be nervous about it, right?
Yeah.
You always have to be like, is he going to play? So here's the tricky part with having these rookie quarterbacks is who do they build chemistry with? Like Baker Mayfield built chemistry with Hollywood Higgins, who was a 5th-round pick. And that was his guy. Does Caleb Williams have a guy? It would make sense that he would go to Keenan Allen, but you also have another veteran, DJ Moore.
Right.
So where does that get split up? I wouldn't be afraid of drafting Keenan Allen. I personally would probably feel most comfortable having him as my WR3 because of the uncertainty on my fantasy team. That being said, if I get him and he starts off to a hot start, I would use him as trade bait as soon as possible if he is, because I could see a fade and Caleb Williams getting more comfortable with others down the stretch. So I would get Keenan Allen. If he starts good, try to get him as trade bait, get rid of him and get something else that maybe is a bit more stable.
We'll have a lot more talk, in-depth talk. One last thing, though. Are you a buyer or a seller or a holder of Jordan Love stock? What do you think we're going to see from Jordan Love this year?
Boy, I'll tell you, I didn't think much of him coming into last year. I didn't. I thought that was a stupid move. I still think it was a dumb move for the Packers to do. You waste Aaron Rodgers' prime with that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
I was impressed because he started hot. Then he got figured out. I'm like, there you go. Then he came back. Like, okay, maybe you actually got something here. I think I'm a buyer because that NFC North is really interesting. The Bears are all the talk because of Caleb Williams, but rookie quarterback. Detroit Lions, lots of expectations. Now, can you live up to it? I don't know. Minnesota Vikings, that's not looking pretty on a quarterback there. So now you have Jordan Love and a team that looks overall, they're not Super Bowl contender. Are they good enough to possibly win the division if the Lions stumble? I think so. So I'm going to say hold. I'm going to say hold and then buy a little bit of stock in Jordan Love. Sure.
See, I'm against you here. Like, you're the fantasy guy. I'm actually going to play fantasy for my first time this year. I've never played fantasy ever in my life. So I'm going to try it out. Yes, I'm going to try it out. I've been asked to join a couple leagues. Go ahead.
You know what? We should try to do like if there's, up to, but my thinking is like if you're doing your draft live, if it works out time wise, I should be on with you. We should do like a live draft.
Okay.
And see, some of that.
We're on to something. But here's where
we'll brainstorm.
I actually think Sam Darnold might have a decent year this year. He's with a competent offensive coach. He got Justin Jefferson. There's not a lot of expectations. He's got the young guy behind him who I don't think is going to start right away, J.J. McCarthy. I know you're not agreeing with your facial expression. I think he's been in bad situations his whole time, and he's never had a chance to do anything. So I think this is an opportunity. He's not eligible for comeback player of the year because they've changed the rules now. It has to be because of injury and everything like that, or sickness or illness. Yeah, they've changed the rules there. But I think he would be a candidate in a previous time to be comeback player. I think he's going to have a good year.
Boy, that's a bold take, Ballsy. I'll give you that. I have to say I don't agree.
Okay.
I think he is glue factory. He said he saw the ghost, and you're right. That's the crazy thing that when years go by and these first round picks don't work out, like, he's a bum. He's a bum. Well, what if he went to take Josh Allen? If Josh Allen went to any one of those other teams, he would be done. Nothing because he was the rawest guy. Sam
Right.
Darnold went to a bad situation, didn't work out. Went to Carolina, had a chance, bad situation there too. I honestly liked the talent of Sam Darnold coming out of that 2018 draft. I did. I wanted my pick, to full transparency, on my draft day movie slip where I put, Devontae Mack, no matter what, I had Sam Darnold's name written down. It didn't age well. So I liked the talent coming out. I just think at some point too, these guys just get too broken. It'll be but you're right. If he can just funnel it to Justin Jefferson, maybe I got to be in see it to believe it with Sam Darnold now.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Hey man, where once again can we get a hold of your stuff?
Get me on Twitter, X at AndyMC81, the show at SickPodBrowns, Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports, and subscribe on YouTube to the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. And again, if you like entertaining horse racing, even if this is for new horse racing fans, Ballsy, so not if you want entertainment, you know how wild and crazy I can get. I bring the heat and the energy to the horse racing stuff. We do a little macho man, we do a little wrestling, we do a little fun. At my Railbirds on all social. Check it out. I think you guys will like it.
Oh, I like this marriage once again. It's great to be back. It's like we were destined to be tag team partners. I appreciate it.
No turning on me. Don't super kick me through the barbershop window though.
No, I'm not going to hit you with that Cleveland Brown hat behind your behind your back. So if you're watching there, you saw the stats. Sorry, I just got an update on my computer here. You saw the stats, Mr. D Stats, Cocktails and Dreams and Cravings logo there. They are a sponsor of the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show, along with Payson Financial, my buddy Kevin Payson, and also District Brewing and Ward Tirecraft. So I want to thank all those sponsors for getting on board for the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. That's coming up after the Riders-Lions game. We do it after every Riders game. People are asking, are you going to do it after every CFL game? Well, I'd love to. I have a stable of CFLers that are going to help me. Craig Smith, the former CFL U Sports coach, CFL scout for a bunch of different teams, Riders, Lions, Tiger Cats, Red Blacks, you name it. He is going to join me to field the calls. This guy is a football nut, so he will break it down like nobody else's business, and we'll take your calls, either audio or video version, or your chats right after the game. It's the First Place Showdown Riders and the BC Lions. Speaking of podcasts, I'll give a shout out for Games with Names podcast, the one Julian Edelman has, the former a receiver with the New England Patriots. Doug Flutie was on that podcast, and we're endeavoring to get Doug on this one as well. I've been in touch with his people, so we're just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. But he revealed new information about how 3-down ideas trickled across the border. I had Christian Covington on, Grover's son, here earlier. If you missed it, you can get it in replay, or you can get it in podcast form. And I was saying to Christian, RPOs and all that stuff, they're bragging about they're doing that, looking at different running quarterbacks, smaller quarterbacks now. And I'm like, we've been doing this stuff up in the CFL forever. And it's nice to see Doug Flutie back me up. Here's what Flutie said on the podcast with Julian Edelman. Chip Kelly, who used to coach Oregon, and I think he's at, if I'm not mistaken, isn't he at Alabama now? Anyway, Chip Kelly came up to, he's at Ohio State now. Chip Kelly came up to Toronto. He was at the University of New Hampshire at the time. He came up to the Argos facilities and watched all our film and was asking questions about this, that, and the other thing, said Flutie. Then he goes to UNH and he just starts lighting it up. He went to Oregon, became the zone read stuff. In Canada, we didn't have the reins on us like they did down south. Kelly, who is currently employed at Ohio State, like I said, was the offensive line coach in New Hampshire during Flutie's final season in Toronto in 1997. But like Flutie just backed me up there. The stuff you're seeing down in the NFL started in the CFL. And it's not like I'm against the NFL. I'm not trying to, I guess I am in a way comparing it, but it's funny how, the challenges of pass interference, whether you like it or not, started here in the CFL, not the NFL. Moving the extra point back, which is one of the greatest rule changes in football in the last 30 years. Moving it back from a short chippy to 30 yards away. That started in the CFL, adopted by the NFL. They're looking to go 18 games. We've been doing it for a long time. They're looking to do it now. not saying I'm an advocate of it, but I'm just saying things that happen in the CFL, everybody, oh, look at the NFL. They do this, they do that. Well, we've never had our lights go out in a championship game. We've never had a referee screw up a coin toss, to my knowledge. They screw up other things. But remember that famous one, Pittsburgh and Detroit? I forget the ref's name, but yeah, he screwed up the coin toss and Pittsburgh would go on to lose that. So Doug Flutie saying what I had to say. A reminder, Saskatchewan, Alberta for the bronze medal game at the U18 Canada Cup. That'll be taking place at Mosaic Stadium tomorrow, earlier in the day. And then the late game has Ontario against Quebec for gold. Got a couple shout outs I want to get to. I want to say hi to John Thomas, who's watching on one of our platforms. Marie Podolsky, Andrew and Danielle Kuffner, also Rick Scott, Aaron Nagy. I got this too. Give me 1 second here. I had this called up and then took it down. Francis Hayes saying, hey, it's amazing of you, Ballsy, to give away 2 tickets to a CFL game and some nice beverages from District Brewing. Best show in the business by far. Love Ballsy Uncut. Thanks, Francis Hayes. Tell all your friends. That post comes from the Ryder Prider fan page run by Jason Victor. I want to say hi to Jerry Cernick. She runs her own Saskatchewan Rough Rider Facebook page. So an existing follower or a new follower, by the end of the post-game show tomorrow, I will pick one lucky winner. They'll get a pick 6, which is a 6-pack of the Super Squeeze, either mango lime or passion fruit lime from our friends at District Brewing, one of our sponsors. And I'm personally going to give you 2 tickets to a CFL game. Okay? Doesn't have to be in Saskatchewan. I can... Today's day and age, I can hook you up with 2 tickets, okay? I'm not telling you they're 50-yard line seats, but I'll get you 2 tickets to get you in a venue of your choice. Could be Mosaic Stadium here in Regina. Could be Edmonton. There are a lot of seats available for those games, but I'll hook you up and we'll get in contact. But you got to be a new or an existing follower. Comment, make yourself known to me on the platforms at Ballsy Uncut YouTube. Maybe be a subscriber, a new subscriber, or Ballsy Uncut on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find us at all those handles. I also have everything you need for the biggest game of the summer at Mosaic Stadium. Wink, wink for those of you watching. And I'll have more details on that coming up. But you got to follow along on the pages. And then I got this from Jeff. Jeff says, hey, Ballsy, do you miss calling the games and covering practice and everything that came with being the voice of a football team? Jeff, absolutely, I miss it. It's what I always wanted to do. Now, on one hand, I got to do it for 2 years, so I'm grateful. On the other hand, I only got to do it for 2 years, so it kind of sucks. But I'm hoping to get back in the league. Again, calling games. That's about all I'll say right now. I'm trying to get back in eventually. There's only so many jobs, but I would love to get back in the league. But for now, I'm going to do this. And yeah, I miss covering practices. Truth be told, did not get accredited to go to cover practice here at Mosaic. I am a member of the Canadian Football League reporters group, but through whatever, I didn't get any accreditation through that. I think they only allot them to certain they limit that, as far as I know, to take you behind the curtain. So I didn't get in that way. And yeah, I didn't get accredited to go in. Now, teams have done a great job lining guests up for me, like Covington, Matt Baker, who I think is the best media guy in the league, with all due respect to the other ones. Of the BC Lions got me Covington. The Calgary Stampeders are trying to line me up, guys. Edmonton, Hernas Salas and Evan Dom do a great job there. And, they got me G. Roy Simon and others for this show. So Ottawa, Hamilton's working on it. So there's some of the teams are stepping up. But I'll tell you this right now, this league is in no position to stop anybody from covering the league. Let's be honest, unless they're total goofballs. And you can't just have it, I guess, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but it's not like like if a 20-year-old kid is interested and starts his own podcast and wants to cover practice, as long as he proves to be respectful, why would you turn him down? At this point in this league, why would you turn down free advertising? I will give, even though I didn't get accreditation locally, on the one side, I've been told I can get rider guests on here during the home game weeks to promote people going to the games. But I don't understand why I can't go to the practices or why I can't get them just, via video link, even when they're in their road weeks. I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind that, but I'm not going to argue with it, whatever. It's just that this league is in no position to turn anybody down. We need to promote. I'm currently, I'll take you behind the scenes again. I'm currently, my son is playing for the Dinos, and he is hoping to get drafted next year. We're a long way from anywhere, but he's getting close to being somewhere. And I'm starting to look at representation for him. Now you'll say, well, Ballsy, you think you know everything, you can represent him. Yeah, sometimes you just got to be a parent. So I'm trying to line him up representation. And we talked to one agent today, and we just started talking about promotion of these athletes. And, this agent represents some NFL people, but he also represents CFL people. And he said, obviously, you see the stark contrast there. And companies just don't have an appetite right now for the local or for the Canadian Football League players, be it American or Canadian guys. And we need to get to that point where these guys can make some extra scratch and get them out there in the public. These are world-class professional one-percenters, as Christian Covington, who spent 9 years in the NFL, told you. Football is football, and to play professional football is very, very tough, very, very hard, and it's like winning a lottery in a sense, because you're a one-percenter. So these athletes do deserve our respect. I can't wait, man. It was a good first game this week. The game tonight, Calgary and Winnipeg. If the Stampeders win, they sweep the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and take a big step in a tiebreaker situation. And the Bombers would be 1-5 and looking up at the Stamps and losing the season series. So it's getting almost into must-win territory for Winnipeg. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but when you think about it, now we're starting to look at tiebreakers now. Like, this is when you build up, you hear it all the time on this show, early season equity. Calgary can put their boot on the throat of the Bombers here. It's going to be a great game. Calgary is 44-64 in Winnipeg lifetime. This is the 216th meeting between those teams. So that's a great game. You got the Riders and the BC Lions. That is going to be a beauty. You got Vernon Adams Jr. You got Shea Patterson. I want to see Shea Patterson take that next step. Had a nice passing touchdown, had a nice running touchdown, looked out of sorts in the first quarter, as you might expect. At home turf, lots of pressure on him. But Mark Mueller, the great offensive mind, young up-and-coming Canadian coach, really schematically helped this quarterback out. I'm interested to see what Mark has drawn up. I got Marcus Sales playing against his old team, the BC Lions, who let him go because of salary cap reasons. Had that pick six for a touchdown against the Argos. You got Pete Robertson playing against his former Rider team. They deemed him expendable. So, I'm looking forward to it, man. Lots of great storylines. Tickets are pretty affordable, $25 and $17. They have sold out. They've sold 30,000 seats or right around there. So they've opened the upper bowl. So I can't wait. Going to be great atmosphere. And yes, people, we talked about this on the last show. Can we quit bitching about the horn in Montreal? It does annoy me too. I didn't notice it when I called games the last couple of years there. It does bother. Like, it's kind of annoying when you're watching it on TV, but I sure as shit would rather have an atmosphere when I'm turning on the TV or listening on the radio as opposed to nothing there. So let's just enjoy the ride. And we've got a full stadium in Montreal. BC, those two owners are really trying their best. So it's great to see. Now, hopefully people can start flocking back to Edmonton. That wraps up the week. You got the coaches with the two. You got coaches with the two with the most pressure on them. Scott Milanovich has a long leash because he just got hired. But Bob Dice has to win, and Chris Jones has to win. So that's going to be a great game, Edmonton and Ottawa. I got Edmonton winning, I got Calgary winning, and I got BC winning. And I picked Toronto. 15-6 so far in Ballsy's best bets. Who do you got? Hit me up on the chat room there and we'll give you a shout out. Like I said, want to say hi to and thanks to Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dudney Avenue, Michael Barth and the gang for their continued support, District Brewing, and my friends Dean and Nicole Gerhardt at Gerhardt Studios for their social media work. And Dean's helped me out a little bit technically as well. I think we got the look down, getting everything going. I appreciate all the comments, good and bad, as long as they're constructive. Okay, it's a new world for me too, figuring out this online stuff. But it is like, that's the thing too, when I'm talking about accreditation, it's like, well, you're not traditional media. Yeah, if you don't evolve, you die. I'm not against traditional media. Like I said, I miss calling games on the radio, but this is the new world right here. This social media is the new world, whether you're watching live or later in podcast form or replay on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This is the way to go, man. This is the way the world is going. Speaking of that, this guy joined me briefly in a previous life, but he's now exclusive to us here on Ballsy Uncut, other than his work with Rogers Sportsnet. He's a former Major League catcher, well-spoken dude. He is Caleb Joseph, and he joins us next here on Ballsy Uncut to give us his thoughts on the first half of Major League Baseball, including some of his award winners. And we're going to talk about the most exciting play in Major League Baseball, in my opinion, and it has nothing to do with a home run. All right, back with another edition of Taking Cuts with my friend Caleb Joseph, former Major League catcher and, of course, an analyst with Blue Jays baseball. We're going to get to your first half award winners, so to speak. But last time you were on, and I do have a memory, believe it or not, it's not fried. There's a couple things we wanted to address. One is I wouldn't say it's a rarity, like we see it, but not as much. And actually, I get more jacked up for this than I do a home run, a triple. Let's talk about the triple because it is kind of rare. You don't see it in every game for sure.
Yeah, and especially in today's day and age where speed is starting to make a bit of a comeback, but it was all about kind of the slug over the fence. I do remember a lot of people inside the game saying the triple is the most exciting play in the big leagues, and I have to agree. Yes, home runs are awesome. They're majestic. There's something about the showmanship of a base runner running around after he's hit a home run. But the triple, there is this growing anticipation and kind of the roars begin as the runner is getting closer to second base. And especially once he hits second base, the crowd just takes off. Even if there isn't a play at third base, you can hear the advance of the roar. It's just this massive sound, and you feel that energy as a player. I'll never forget opening day a few years ago. I was catching. I hit a ball in the gap. We were down by 2 runs. There was runners at first and second. I hit the ball into the right center field gap in Baltimore. And again, I'm a catcher, not the fleetest of foot, but it just hit perfectly the way that the outfielders had me positioned. I just went for it. And of course, it's opening day, so I got fresh legs and I'm all excited. I hit second base, and the roar of the crowd literally took me into third base. I had a triple. I secured a couple RBIs, but when I slid into third base and popped up, it was as if I had hit a walk-off grand slam home run to win the game. It was one of the greatest moments of my Major League career, hitting that triple. And, of course, being on the other side of it sometimes, that's the last thing you want to see is a guy hitting second base, turning to third, getting all the way to third, because normally you're in a heap of trouble if that happens. But, yes, for me, I would love to see a triple every day over a home run. Home runs kind of get boring sometimes for me. But triples, the anticipation, everything about it, super exciting.
I used to love watching the guys like Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman of the St. Louis Cardinals. Those guys could really rip it up, and even Tim Raines to an extent back in the day with the Montreal Expos. All right, let's talk. Last time we were talking about the relationship between the home plate umpire and the catcher. Can you take us inside that relationship? Were there some you had really good ones with, and others you're like, oh, what kind of night are we in for?
Yeah, they're much like pitchers. They have all kinds of different personalities, and believe it or not, they are human, and they like things that normal humans like. I remember an umpire who's still calling games right now, Bill Miller, huge UCLA football fan. So once you figure out something like that, you walk up and you say, hey, how are those Bruins doing at UCLA? And you strike up a conversation. Or you have a guy like Tom Hallian, who had a huge kind of tornado-type action to his strike three call. And I went up to him. I said, hey, you got the best strike three call, man. It's like a tornado. And his nickname then carried on, Tornado Tom Hallian. So I always tried to get along with these umpires because, A, I saw them as human. I used to be an umpire as a little leaguer. It's not as easy as it looks. And knowing that if you have that relationship with them back and forth and you build some honesty and build some credibility, your job as a catcher becomes so much easier. And on occasion, you do get a pitch here and there, not only defensively but offensively. I still to this day go into the umpire's room as an analyst and go and chat with all of those umpires because I knew them by name. They knew me. They knew I was fair. I knew they were fair. I got along with just about every single one of them. I was never ejected. I even tried to get ejected a couple times, and they wouldn't throw me out. They said, you're too nice of a guy. We're not having you on our list. But that relationship is so important. If you can learn that out the gate, you can earn a lot of credibility. And at some, in some situations, you can get a pitch that's maybe an inch or two off the plate because of the way you frame it and because of the way you've presented yourself. But it is absolutely a relationship, and I just don't see that very often in the game today, if I'm being totally honest. It was a requirement, a prerequisite as a young player to learn these umpires. Nowadays, I barely even see them go out there and shake their hands and chat.
Yeah. So is that the entitled athlete now? A different mindset now?
I think it's age, to be honest with you. And there's just not that many veteran catchers around anymore. And a lot of that has to do with how they were brought up. And so there's kind of this passing down of information, and there's this passing down of how the game's supposed to be played. And a lot of these young catchers, they don't quite understand how dynamic that relationship can be, and that you can really earn a lot of brownie points with them if you just have conversations. I will say too, some of the pitch clock does hinder a little bit of the conversation. I remember having multiple conversations with umpires while hitters were messing around and doing silly stuff. So there is a little bit of a time crunch, and so I think that does play, but I would still be trying to chat it up for sure.
Kind of a little bit of kinship between the two of you because you're both behind. Anything can go on behind there with foul tips. Catchers get it, umpires get it. There's a little bit of that too, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. My whole goal was to protect them from getting hit, and a lot of times it depended on their setup. Some of the old school umpires would set up in a way that would be always following me around. Now what you'll see is umpires are now in what they call the slot. So for a right-handed batter, they try and get kind of on that inner part of the plate, on the inside part of the plate. For a left-handed batter, they move more on the inside plate. Whereas when I first started, they would move with me. If I moved in, they moved in. If I moved out, they moved out. But you're also having this constant communication. If you think there's a good pitch there, you can say, hey, Jim, that was a pretty good pitch. And if you build that rapport, then before you know it, you have umpires asking you before you can even say anything to them about a certain pitch. Hey, did you have that as a good pitch? And you're almost working in tandem. Now, again, it's you have to tell the truth. You can't say, yeah, that's a great pitch, and it'd be 6 inches outside, knowing that after the game, he could go back and look at that pitch and say, oh, that guy's full of it. I'm never going to listen to him again. But it was almost like a working relationship because I wanted them to do a good job so that I could then do a good job. And that's how I personally viewed it.
A lot of catchers become managers because they're managing the game. Do we see it, former catchers, a lot of them become umpires? Because you'd think that'd be natural too with the eyesight and everything like that.
That is a great question. I have honestly thought, and my wife would kill me for even saying this, but I have thought about going back and trying to be umpire and going up because I saw millions and millions of pitches, and I know how that game works. I know the pitcher-catcher relationship. I know what pitchers are trying to do. You have good feel for intent, and a lot of times that's kind of the problem with some umpires is trying to judge intent, whether balls get close to guys or not. And, of course, you know all the rules. But, yeah, I've thought that if I could get back there, I could probably go through the ranks pretty quickly. I will say it does take quite a bit of time to get to the big leagues as a major league umpire. Probably on average, all of the umpires that I asked, it was probably between 6 8 years in the minor leagues to then get to the big leagues. Now, of course, once you do get to the big leagues, you pretty much have a lifetime contract unless you're just absolutely horrible. But it's a bit of a grind. I don't know if I want to go back to the minor leagues at age 37.
Yeah, no kidding. You're young enough and you have a great demeanor. Actually, we're pretty proud here where I come from, Regina, because Stu Sherwater is he's the only Canadian ump, only Canadian major league ump, full-time ump, and he comes from Regina. So that's pretty something to hang his hat on.
I will tell you, he has one of the coolest strike calls. It's just a huge punch to the side. See, I'm all into the umpires. I know all of their strike calls. I can do all of them. We're thinking about doing a segment on Blue Jays Central. Might even be prevalent if they start to sell off. But one quick story, Stu Sherwater was in Canada during the lockout in 2020. Well, if people remember the Toronto Blue Jays, the team that I was on in 20, we kind of got stuck in Toronto for like a 5 or 6 week period. Well, guess who was in the bubble with us? Stu Sherwater, and I had him in the minor leagues as well. So we were all very close-knit. He was a great umpire, still does a really nice job, very personable. He's one of the best. I really enjoy Stu.
Yeah, young guy too, right around your age. So hey, there you go. Maybe a tie-in, man. You'd make a good umpire. Just convince your wife. Actually, I'll let you go as long as you keep doing this segment because you do a great job. Okay, so let's get to our first half awards. Okay, who is your manager of the year in the National League? One in the National, one in the American, if you can think off the top of your head.
Yeah, National League for me, it's got to be the Milwaukee Brewers manager, Pat Murphy. I think coming in after Craig Counsell, that's some huge shoes to fill. Remember, he was the bench coach for Counsell. That's a big name manager, and coming in and kind of picking up right where Counsell left off. The Brewers are such a unique team. They never have this massive payroll. If you look up and down their lineup, there's not a ton of huge stars, and I really feel like that's an organization where the manager can really be worth his weight in gold if they do a nice job. Pat Murphy's done an amazing job. First place in the NL Central. He's been fantastic.
Okay, and what about the American League?
Yeah, for me, the American League, much similar story. It is from the Cleveland Guardians, Stephen Vogt, an ex-friend of, well, not ex-friend, a friend of mine, ex-competitor of mine, shall I say, and he just has tremendous feel. I actually spoke to him when he was in town playing against the Toronto Blue Jays, and he was kind of giving me the rundown of the entire process of what it looked like to interview. But he has phenomenal feel, just done playing, is able to blend the analytics and the old school. He does impersonations of like referees and umpires. So I know he's keeping it very, very relaxed in that clubhouse. But again, coming into a situation where he's replacing Terry Francona, who in my opinion is probably a Hall of Famer in what he's been able to accomplish. Not an easy task to fill. The Guardians are first in the AL Central, and he's been doing a great job.
All right, so give me your Rookie of the Year in the American League. Let's stay in the American League. Do you have a Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, Rookie of the Year for me, it's Luis Gil. Heel, like the back of your foot, heel.
Yeah.
It's spelled Gil, but this kid came out of absolutely nowhere, originally with the Minnesota Twins, but he has come on in the absence of Garrett Cole, and for me, he saved their season. What he was able to do truly embodies the most, valuable player for a team, and he's just been excellent in terms of all of the numbers. Goodness, I got some right here. If I can get to my little cheat sheet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hold on. There he is, 9-5, 3.27 ERA. And again, you can't understate what it is, what the job description is like coming in trying to replace a Garrett Cole type in the market that New York is in. He's been absolutely fantastic.
Okay, and the National League Rookie of the Year, who do you think it is?
This one to me is pretty simple. It's Paul Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates. I've watched this guy quite a bit. It is absolutely electric. It's been a while since I've seen stuff like this consistently. It's a triple-digit fastball, amazing breaking ball. Just his ability to control the strike zone with those weapons. He actually just was announced as the National League starter for the All-Star game. This is a can't-miss Rookie of the Year in the National League, in my opinion. But he's transforming the game. And again, Pittsburgh, they find ways to every once in a while have these just superstar type players. Think of like Andrew McCutchen type. Skeens could be right behind in that regard.
I agree with you on that. My honorable mention, I'm biased because I'm a Padres fan, as you know, Jackson Merrill is having a great year, and it's really helped save the Padres season to this point, kept them in the mix. No Tatis, no Bogarts, and Machado's been up and down. And that's where I go with I didn't tell you this one in our show prep. Who would be your surprise player or comeback player. For me, it's Profar for the Padres. He is if Merrill's 1B, Profar's 1A for the Padres.
Right. And I saw Profar as a Texas Ranger, and the tools were so raw. It just looked kind of discombobulated at times. You could see when he would hit a ball here and there, like, wow, I see what they're seeing. But then 60% of the rest of the game was, I don't see what anybody is seeing here. And so it was just a matter of piecing it all together. His story, you talk about an absolute roller coaster of in and out of prospect status, in and out of different organizations, just trying to find a place where he could stick. And credit the Padres. They've given him a couple chances now, and he's absolutely proven it. Yes, when I saw him many years ago, I thought that he was going to kind of be a one and done, a show and go. But he's been resurgent in his career.
Okay, so let's, before we wrap up, pick the AL MVP at the midway point and the NL MVP. Let's stay in the NL. Who's your NL MVP if you had to pick at the midway point here?
Right. So I think everybody would probably naturally tend to go with Ohtani. That's kind of the popular pick. But, when it comes to kind of most valuable, for me, it's actually another Dodger. It's Mookie Betts. And I grew up with Mookie Betts. I know him very well. But what he brings to that Dodger lineup, even though it is stacked with Ohtani, with Freeman, with a bunch of other names, he is kind of the spark plug to that engine. And with him being on the IL now, I think the Dodgers actually look a little bit vulnerable, even with all of those other superstars. He's having a killer year so far, batting over 300. OPS is right at 900, and he's just so valuable. I know that you could make a case that if you take Ohtani out, they'd be in the exact same position. But for me, it's being at the top of that lineup, getting everything started, allowing Ohtani to see certain pitches, Freeman to see certain pitches, to drive in runs. To me, I feel like the Dodgers really cannot get Mookie Betts back in time.
And a great leader for sure.
Oh,
absolutely great. His leadership is unquestioned. Okay, and then in the AL, I mean, Aaron Judge is having an unbelievable year.
He's the easy pick, but I'm going across town with the baby birds. I'm going with Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles. To me, this is probably the most underrated season of all time, and he's my MVP only because if you take him out of that Orioles lineup, who knows where the Orioles are. They do have a ton of really nice-looking players, and the same can be said about Judge, but they also have Soto and Stanton. They would probably be able to figure out a little bit more than, in my opinion, the Orioles. But Henderson, 27 homers already, OPS over 950. This is not a household name. There's still a lot of people that don't really know exactly who this young product is, but you got to credit the Orioles and Mike Elias over there for finding this kid in Alabama and taking him later round pick, but has totally developed into just an absolute beast. And he is a big guy, strong guy, young, has adjustability. He's been outstanding for the Orioles.
And Caleb, at the midway point, if you were to put that sweet Sportsnet money or Ballsy Uncut money towards a bet, who's going to be in the World Series at the midway point? We won't hold you to it, but right now at the halfway point or just over the halfway point.
Sure. As it stands right now, considering the fact that Betts is on the IL, considering that Stanton's on the IL, if I had to pick right now, for me, it's the Orioles versus the Phillies. I think that the Phillies just continue to do it. They have the top of the rotation in Wheeler and Nola. They are experienced. They are poised. Then you have that lineup that has just basically been the same. Dave Dombrowski, the general manager of the Phillies, he revamped that bullpen a little bit. That was probably their weakest part, and they're better. I do like the Phillies, and I love teams that get close and then get close and then get close. It feels like that they have obviously the experience, but they also have more of a fire burnt in there to get to the finish line. And what can you say about the Orioles? They have just continued to surprise. And this is without any trade deadline acquisitions. They went and got Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers, but they're still just a really raw team. And I think once they add, I think they're going to add a starting pitcher or two. And this is considering that their starting pitching has actually been decimated as well as their bullpen. Their bullpen has been decimated, and they just continue to keep going because I think their offense is going to carry them through the playoffs. They just seem to hit good pitching, and that's what it takes. You got to have 5 or 6 guys that can really hit good pitching in the playoffs. I feel like the Orioles have it. They got a little bit of a taste of it last year, And I think the experience that they got last year is going to push them over the edge this year.
Baseball more so than any other sport. Hockey could challenge us, but it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And there's one theme in this whole conversation, whether it's going back to the minors to be an ump or whatever, it's adversity. Whoever deals with adversity in baseball the best, either as an individual or, as a team, that's the successful people or teams.
Absolutely. Look at the World Series champions of last year, the Texas Rangers. I think it was 3 separate times they had won 7 and lost 7 in a row. And that's violence. I mean, that is truly a violent string and a violent way of going through a season. But, you talk about experience. Their manager, Bruce Bochy's been through it all, been through every bit of it. And I have quite a few contacts over there with the Rangers who said without Bochy, that season would have been totally toast, even though they have quite a few veteran players over there. Scherzer's coming back, as you know. But the Rangers season last year is the epitome of what, if you can get through a lot of the nastiness and then peak at the right time, you have a chance.
All right, man. Have a great weekend and enjoy the All-Star break with the family. Maybe convince her that you're going to go back and be an umpire.
Try 3. She'd throw me out of the game for sure.
See you later, bud.
All right, you got it.
All right. Thanks to Caleb Joseph for joining us, getting set for the Blue Jays. He's going to be in studio with the Blue Jays broadcast today. They're taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks, last series before the All-Star break. WCBL, Regina's at Weyburn, Saskatoon, Barrie's at Swift Current to take on the 57s. Moose Jaw Miller Express taking on the Mavericks of Medicine Hat in the Hat. Sylvan Lake at Okotoks, Lethbridge taking on Fort McMurray and Edmonton at Brooks. Caleb Joseph taking cuts. If there's a business out here that wants to sponsor that, be more than happy to get your logo up and sponsor former Major League Baseball catcher and now analyst with Sportsnet. Speaking of baseball, and he's exclusive to this show right here, Ballsy Uncut. Want to give a shout out to Baseball Saskatchewan's 18U AAA Provincial Championship being held at Optimus Park and Curry Field from the 26th through the 28th of July. You know me, I like to promote the stars of tomorrow today. We do it in football, we do it in hockey, golf, we're doing it in baseball here with my buddy Steve Linsmeyer, whose son Colby, speaking of back catchers, is a catcher locally here. His team is trying to qualify. Teams still to be determined as league play is still going on for the final race to qualify for the top 8 teams who will qualify for that tourney July 26th through the 28th. But the official media partner is right here, Ballsy Uncut Media Inc. I'm going to be the official sponsor of the media portion of this, so I will have some guests on in the lead up and during the 26th through the 28th festivities at Optimus Park and Curry Field. Go watch the baseball stars of tomorrow today. It's going to be great, and I'm happy to get on board because that's what we do around here. That's what I've always been dedicated to. And actually, let's reach back here if I can for a second. My friend, Jim Hobson, he autographed a bunch of these books called Running the Riders. I told him, hey, I have an idea. I want to do the Amateur Athlete of the Year here at Ballsy Uncut. Now, this, when you're on the World Wide Web, as I like to say as an old guy, you can have athletes anywhere. Now, I think for this, at least the first year till we get it off the ground, we're going to do it locally. Like by locally, I mean in Saskatchewan, because Jim was a Ram, was a rider, president when back in their heyday, the last heyday they had when they were spectacular, both on and off the field. They were what the Bombers are now. I know they're on hard times a little bit here to start the season, but on and off the field, the Bombers are what the Riders were. Riders are hoping to get back there again in terms of success on and off the field. Big first place showdown tomorrow in BC. And I'll wrap the show up by talking about that in a second. But anyway, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to do an Amateur Athlete of the Year award, and we're going to start taking submissions in the fall when all the schools come back. Not only got football going on, amateur football, amateur hockey. It could be anything, but we'll start it in the fall, and we'll take your submissions by DMing me at Ballsy Uncut on any of the platforms. Okay. So just to wrap up here, I got one more chat here too from Valerie Paulson. This is why we follow and love your shows, Ballsy, and have for a long time. Promote Canadians and football. And all sports, etc. Need more of this type of coverage. Keep up the passion and work you're doing. Yeah, I'm not going away anywhere. Playing the long game for sure. And as part of that, we do a post-game show called Balls. Our Balls Are Bigger. The CFL used to have the slogan, Our Balls Are Bigger. About 2017, 2018, they went to the same size of ball. Like I think the US caught up to us. And so the NFL and CFL balls are the same, but we can still use the slogan, Our Balls Are Bigger, because I got props here too, by the way, if you're watching. So I can reach up here. Hopefully I don't wreck my whole studio here, but I've got the U Sports football right here. The U Sports football there. And then behind me, let me reach over my shoulder. I've got the NCAA football, and the NCAA football is, if you can see here, I got to figure this out with the microphone. So the U Sports football is here. That's the U Sports football. It is a little fatter, little more oblong. And then this one here, the Wilson NCAA football, is a little bit thinner. So our balls are bigger when it comes to amateur football, which is interesting still. And I've said this too. Like what I don't understand about, we talked about the CFL earlier, the ones that moved the point after attempt back to the 32, 33 yard line. And then the NFL followed, but they still don't do that in college, both sides of the border, here and in the US. Is the point of playing football in some form or fashion to get to the next level? So why I don't understand why why U Sports, why junior football, why NCAA and all the ranks don't move their extra point back. Because aren't you trying to get the kids, the kickers, ready for the next level, or at least the opportunity to go to the next level? That's another question I have. Maybe I'll ask Craig Smith that tomorrow. Craig Smith, longtime scout, amateur coach, pro coach in Canada, going to join us tomorrow to break down the Riders and the BC Lions game. The Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. CFL, drop that handle. I have trademarked it, so there you go. It's the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. Make sure you tune in. And a new or existing follower / commenter, by the end of tomorrow's post-game show after the Rider Lion game, I'm going to pick somebody. They will win 2 tickets to any CFL game. Okay? 2 tickets to any CFL game and a 6-pack of Super Squeeze seltzer, either passion fruit lime or mango lime, courtesy of my friends at District Brewing here in Regina. Now, the passion fruit lime and the mango lime, the Super Squeeze seltzers, only in Saskatchewan liquor stores. So that might affect if you want to get in on it. If you don't care to drink or whatever, I can give it to a Saskatchewan follower. And if you're from out of province, you can get the tickets to a CFL game. The seltzer's on my sponsor. Well, it's not on my sponsor. I'm going to buy it, but they've helped me raise my billboard on Sask Drive, which you can check out if you're driving towards the stadium westbound. They help put that up and have sponsored this show. So I'm going to get a 6-pack, a pick 6, as we like to say in football terminology, and somebody will win that in 2 tickets, but we'll get to that. But you got to be a new or existing follower at Ballsy Uncut on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, TikTok, and I'll pick 1 lucky winner, or 2 if you're not in Saskatchewan and can't redeem the drinks. Anyway, that'll do it for my time. I want to thank my sponsors for this show, Ward Tire Craft, 101 Dudney Avenue in Regina, and also District Brewing. If you want to get on board and be a sponsor or want to know more about the show, I have a website, ballsyuncut.ca. There's There's a way to sign up. There's a way to join me with your email. There's a way to sign up and be a sponsor or get in touch being a sponsor. We build it one listener at a time, one sponsor at a time. We're playing the long game, trying to promote sports in Canada, but the 3-down game. It needs a lot of love. It deserves a lot of love. Enjoy the football game tonight, Winnipeg, Calgary. Enjoy all the CFL action. We'll be back on Saturday after the Riders-Lions game. Myself and Craig Smith will talk to you then. And remember, I leave you with this. Our balls are bigger.